Hello. Good day. It's time for my devotional. Hope your day's going well. It's a rainy day here in Nova Scotia. We're going to have a lot of rain ahead of us, it looks like, over the next while, which we're really glad for, having had such a dry early part of the year, the spring, and all those fires. Whatever happening with you, hope you're having a good day. And just praising God. Let's take a look at our devotional today. We're in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 10 today. And so, as we've been doing these last few verses, I'm just reading the little paragraph around it. So, from verse 6 to 11, I'll read that, and then we'll focus on verse 10 today. And you can check the previous videos for each of the previous verses. But let's read it and just dive right in. So, verse 6 says, "Go to the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways and be wise, which, having no chief, officer, or ruler, prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provision in the harvest. How long will you lay down, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Your poverty will come in like a vagabond, and your need like an armed man." So we're going to focus on verse 10. So I'm going to reread verse 10 just to get that point there. But just to emphasize the context, is talking to the sluggard, the person who's lazy. We might use the word lazy, a lazy person, right? So talking to that person, saying, trying to give wisdom to that person, saying, listen, take a look at this example of the ant. And so it says, here's the ant. No one has to drive the ant along and tell the ant what to do. The ant just does it, goes, gets the food at the right time during the summer and the harvest to prepare for the winter. And so then the question, of course, we dealt with yesterday. So how long are you going to lie? You're going to lay there. How long are you going to be just lying down? And it's time to get up and do your work, right? And so then verse 10 says, "A little sleep." Now you got to view this verse as a quote, sort of a rhetorical quote of the sluggard, of the lazy person. They're saying, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, right? And there's this idea of that's what you say. And then in verse 11, of course, your poverty will come like a vagabond. We'll deal with that tomorrow. But this statements, these supposed statements of the sluggard, just a little sleep. I'm just gonna take a little nap here. That's all I'm doing, right? And that's the idea. And so, to focus on what we might glean out of this for wisdom, just think about this idea of the person that says that. For the lazy person, this by the way applies to other things in life as well, not just laziness. It applies to other things, but with regard to the lazy person, when they say, "Just gonna have to take a little break. I'm just taking a little nap," do they really believe that? Like, do they really think I'm just taking a little nap, or do they know somewhere inside of themselves, I'm going to nap for quite a while, or I'm going to take a break for quite a while. I'm going to take a break till somebody makes me not take a break, or or have they convinced themselves somewhere inside that no, I really am going to just take a little break, and then the break comes to an end, except that they say, well, maybe a little more, and then the break comes to a little more, and so you can almost read this as that progression, right? I'm just going to have a little sleep. Oh, that's over. Well, a little slumber. Oh, that's over. Just a little folding of the hands. And is there always another, just a little something, a little something, a little something? Do they know? Now, I would say that some genuinely don't know. They really genuinely mean, I'm just taking a break, and then it just kind of gets away on them, and they don't realize. Maybe some people are like that. But I think often what happens is, with regard to the lazy person, or other vices, I think what often happens is you kind of convince yourself that you really do mean it, but somewhere inside yourself you know better. You do know better somewhere inside. You just have denied that. You've denied that piece of you any kind of breathing room. You won't let that person speak. That part of your inside that knows, I'm saying a little, but I really mean a lot, and but you kind of suppress that and silence that part of yourself and convince yourself. You convince yourself, no, no, I just meant a little, but you didn't really. It's a form of self deception. Is what it is, right? You deceive yourself into believing something. Now we got a couple ways to look at this. One is, we call it rationalization. It's the idea when somebody tries to convince themselves that what they're doing is actually okay in some way, or that they really, in this case, I really didn't mean that. Just the day got off on me, or I fell asleep and didn't wake up, or they slept through the alarm, or whatever. And they come up with an excuse for why the thing that they did turned out to be more than they said, right? More than a little. And they come up with a reason, a rationale for why it was okay that it kind of went that way. And yet, if you're really honest with yourself, you would realize inside you kind of knew, you kind of planned to fail, right? You actually set yourself up to fail because you really didn't mean a little, you meant a lot. And that's one of the things that catches a person in laziness or in addictions or whatever. They get caught in this rationalization cycle, this process of deceiving themselves, and they won't let themselves hear their own inside telling them, you don't really mean that. And they try to rationalize it and try to make a reason why it's okay. The problem with rationalization is it can help you deal with the emotional problem you're feeling. It can help you get rid of that so that you can do the thing you shouldn't do. But the problem with rationalization is that it doesn't change reality, right? Like if you think about the ant, if the ant were to rationalize away, I don't need to collect food, and did that every day and every day and every day, and emotionally felt okay about it, it doesn't stop winter from coming, right? And eventually, so which the verse we'll deal with tomorrow, the poverty comes in like an armed man. It's like all of a sudden, boom, reality hits, and all the rationalization in the world can't undo reality. And so that's the problem with it. And it's whether it be with laziness or some addiction or some other vice that you want to indulge in. When we get into the habit of deceiving ourselves through rationalization, we really do ourselves a disservice because reality just keeps going. And so it's better instead to learn the discipline of not ever deceiving yourself, of not letting yourself suppress that part of you, or to use the image from the cartoons, the little angel and the little demon, and the demon's telling you it's okay, and the angel saying, no, don't do it, to not shut that angel up, but to let that angel speak, so to speak. That's just an image, but that idea, that part of you where the Holy Spirit may be speaking to you and saying, listen now, this isn't, and you need to learn this discipline of saying, I'm not going to silence that voice. I'm going to let myself know the truth. Do I really mean a little sleep? No, I mean a lot. And so, don't let yourself deceive yourself. The other side of it is this, is entitlement. Goes hand in hand quite often with rationalization. When we feel entitled to, right? So the lazy person might feel, I have a right to rest. I have a right to take a break. I have a right to, I don't have to. And so this entitlement thing builds, right? And out of the entitlement of, I have a right to this, comes this permission giving thing, where you give yourself permission to do the thing you shouldn't do, or to not do the thing you should do, right? Either way. And so you tell yourself, you use the rationalization, the self-deception, or whatever, or even the truth. I am entitled to this. And you use that as a way to give yourself permission to do something. By default, we do this with everything, right? When you're growing up and you're a child, you give yourself permission to do everything. It's only your parents that impose rules. And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I want to do my thing. You have a temper tantrum. And if you have good parents, they they discipline you and teach you not to do that, because it's so important for us to learn how to say no to ourselves, to not give ourselves permission to do just anything we want to do every time we want to do it. That's such an important thing. Self-discipline is what, we hear this term, self-discipline. And self-discipline doesn't have anything to do with your entitlements, right? You can literally be entitled to something and still say no to yourself, right? I'm entitled to this rest. Okay. But winter's coming. Are you going to have food in the winter? Well, no. If I don't work, I'm not going to have it. Right. So whether you're entitled to the rest or not doesn't matter. Can you discipline yourself to do what you need to do, regardless of the entitlement? And that's once again, that's where truth overrides my rights, right? Like the fact of the reality of the world is going to still happen. And so even if I am entitled, I have to sometimes say, well, I'm going to set aside my entitlement because the need is here, and I need to discipline myself to do the thing I need to do. Right? So in this case, talking with a lazy person, I need to discipline myself. Yes, I could have a nap, but you know what? I can sleep later. I can't harvest all year round. I can sleep later, so I'll have to push myself through, and I'll have to do this, even though I do deserve a rest. But I'll have to take it later, and that's what you do. A really good habit is the habit of teaching yourself to accept the truth of anything, the truth of yourself, the truth of your situation, the truth of whatever, no matter how painful or inconvenient that truth may be, is to discover the truth and then accept it and then discipline yourself to act on it. And so then that's a mature, non-lazy way to approach life. And so that's what I'll glean from this little verse. You can take a look at it and pray about it as you study it. But I think that's kind of the idea here in verse 10, is it just sort of gives us the quote from the lazy person who says, just a little sleep, right? Just a little slumber. Yeah, well, winter's still coming. God help us to be wise in this way, to be truthful. God bless you. God willing, I'll come back tomorrow. We will do verse 11 and talk about the end of this little paragraph and the end result of laziness. In the meantime, have a great day. We'll see you then.